Recording started.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, everyone, from the Portage County Master Gardeners. I'm John Secar, a brand new Master Gardening intern, and I'm happy to be here as your MC or host this evening, starting out. We're excited to see so many of you interested in growing small fruits. We have over 250 registered participants for this evening's program. A couple announcements, a couple ads here before we get started about upcoming Portage County Master Gardener visitor volunteer activities. This year, the Portage County Master Gardeners are partnering with the Portage Soil and Water Conservation District and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources to present a four-part collaboration called Invasive Species, How to Live Without Them. This is a free series. The first session will be led by the wonderful Judy Semrock on June 1st at 6 p.m. at the Kent, Ohio Free Library. Many of you know Judy as an expert in all kinds of things, a fun and tireless presenter, educator, the owner of Nature Spark, offering naturalist services throughout our region. The registration link for the first invasive species session can be found in the chat box. You can click at any time, or you can copy it and paste it and sign up later. A free program, the first of four parts about invasive species, how to live without them. Also, you can visit us at the Master Gardener information table at the Haymaker Farm Market in downtown Kent on the first and third Saturdays all summer from May 6th to September 2nd. Bring your gardening stories and your gardening questions. You'll also have details on how to become a Master Gardener volunteer. Also, the Master Gardener, Portage County Master Gardeners hold an annual fundraiser that includes a wonderful plant sale and a trash and treasure sale, gardening themed trash and treasure sales. Come out to the Portage County Soil and Water Office on Route 88 north of Ravenna to browse our sale on Saturday, May 13th. Saturday, May 13th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. But come early because things go very quickly. There'll be an amazingly useful trash and treasure sale there. You can buy great things for peanuts. Who knows, you might even find some small fruit-bearing plants. Proceeds go to our educational outreach. In September, watch for the Master Gardener float in the Balloon Affair Parade, made by our award-winning team of float builders. Who knew we had a team of float builders? For our webinar tonight, the Portage County Master Gardeners team up with the Portage Soil and Water Conservation District. My script is falling over. Here we go. To host this workshop. The Portage County Master Gardener volunteers have some experience with establishing small fruits at two plots in two urban food forest master gardening projects in the community. We also have a presence in the Thomas Anderson Memorial Community Garden in Kent's historic South End. So we're especially excited to learn more about the state of the art of small fruits. Our presenter this evening is Dr. Gary Gao. He's a professor and small fruit specialist with the Ohio State University's College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences, South Centers. He conducts research and delivers extension programs on blueberries, brambles, grapes, as well as aronia, elderberries, gooseberries, and currants. I guess we'll get some current events tonight, huh? Hardy figs and kiwis and other high-value crops. Dr. Gao is the editor and co-author of the award-winning book, Midwest Home Fruit Production Guide. He has authored or co-authored numerous Ohio State University Extension fact sheets. He will share his knowledge and experience on growing superfruits such as raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, elderberries, aronia, and more with us. There will be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. Dr. Gao, we're so welcome to have you this evening. Before you begin, let me turn you over to Anthony Lurch, our IT wizard from Soil and Water, who provides some housekeeping tips about using the chat for Q&A, which will take place following the presentation. Anthony, over to you.
Thank you, John. Like John had stated before, we are going to use the chat box for all questions throughout the program. At the very end, we will go over them, as many as we have time for. We ask that everybody keep themselves muted throughout the presentation to avoid any distractions going on in the background and keep the focus on Dr. Gao. But anything other than that, if you have questions, I'm the host. You can send a chat directly to me. Other than that, we look forward to hearing from Dr. Gao. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, John, and also many thanks to Anthony and Len and Claudia and all the Master Gardeners in Portage County. And this is an honor to present a workshop to you all. And this is just so exciting to have heard that 250 some folks have registered for the class, and I know some of them will watch it at their leisure. But it's just so neat to see so many of you. Gosh, 110 on our Zoom, and people talk about Zoom fatigue and this and that. But it's could be still a lot of fun to talk about small fruits and all that. So let me go ahead, share my screen. Okay, so as you could imagine, small fruit or small fruits, and there are a lot of them, and it's hard to cover them all in about 50 some minutes or so. And I would like to leave some time, some time for questions. And there are just way too many of them to cover in such a short period of time. And so I'm gonna before I prepared my talk, and I did reach out to Claudia and also Len for some guidance and like what kind of crops that you guys might be mostly interested in. As you can tell in my title slide, I kind of listed raspberries and blueberries, and I will also talk a little bit about blackberries, and with an understanding that Portage County can be pretty cold, so blackberry growing may or may not be fruitful. So I'll give you some pointers and hopefully to help you out a little bit. So today you're welcome to put your questions in the chat box, and since I do research on all kinds of fruit crops, and my degrees are in pomology, production of fruits and tree fruits, and also production of grapes. And so I know a few things about those as well. So if you have questions, and you can put them in the chat box, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. So let's kind of talk about raspberries a little bit. Whenever okay, so Louis was asking, aren't we talking for 2 hours? Well, for Len told me to keep it to 1 hour because of potential Zoom fatigue. So maybe you and I can keep on talking for another hour, or for a total of 2 hours. But anyway, so I was told to end before 7 o'clock. So okay, and so let's talk about raspberries a little bit. And as we all know, raspberries can be classified by fruit color. So we're talking about black, purple, red, and yellow varieties. And so for master gardeners, and probably the first thing that we need to know is, or for gardeners, red raspberries and black raspberries should not be planted side by side, and because there is a danger of viral transmission, and there are 4 or 5 viruses that can get on them, and some of the varieties will just be simply killed. So it's never a good idea to plant black and red raspberries side by side. So for home gardeners, and typically the way you would achieve that kind of separation is because hardly anybody, well, unless you have a large farm, you can spread them around. Typically, I would just plant one kind in the front yard and one kind in the backyard. But sometimes commercial growers actually plant red and black raspberries side by side. And because viruses are transmitted by aphids, so if you can control aphids religiously, and that might still work. But for home gardeners and most of us, we really don't spray enough insecticides to control aphids. So you can you can distinguish them by color, and you can also distinguish them by fruiting habits. So some of them are called primocane bearing varieties or ever-bearing varieties, so primocane bearing variety or floricane bearing varieties. So it's very important to kind of know that distinction, because if you were to grow primocane, well, if you were to grow floricane varieties, and they will be producing fruits in summer on second-year-old canes. So if you just cut everything to the ground now, like now, and you will not get any fruits from floricane varieties. And so it's very important to know what type they are. Okay, I'll keep going. And so people often ask, like, okay, what what kind of ways can I use to grow raspberries? And so I threw a couple of several pictures in here, and raspberries, and some of them can get pretty tall. Get pretty tall if you have very good soil. At OSU South Centers in Piketon, our soil is actually not very good. It's very heavy clay, and so we had I had my technician build a few raised beds and out of pressure treated lumber, and so these raised beds are quite high, and so that's the good news. The bad news is our soil is still not very good. And so as you can tell, our raspberries are definitely not like what you see on the left-hand side. They are more like maybe 7-8 feet tall. And so ours were more like maybe 4.5 feet tall. So if you have clay soil, I would definitely amend them, maybe by adding about 30% compost. Sometimes even 40% might be needed. But if you have sandy, loamy soil, and then you don't have to do that. And so in areas that have well-drained soil or heavily amended soil, you may not need to build raised beds. And this is a picture from Longwood Gardens. So with Longwood Gardens, a lot of people wonder why their landscapes look so nice. So the secret is their annual budget is about $1 million. So that's kind of how they keep things looking good. Well, I wish I had that kind of maintenance budget. With it, then we can pluck off every single weed that doesn't belong there. So cultivar selection, and there are a few. There are a few of them. So with black raspberries, and typically, genetic diversity of black raspberries is not really that wide. So we're always hoping for better varieties, but it takes a long time for anybody to develop anything That's better than existing varieties. And so one of my favorite varieties, black raspberry varieties, is Jewel. And so that's number one. Number two is Mac Black. And these two are primocane bearing varieties. So the primocane bearing varieties, and if you cut them at the ground level in March, and then you will not have a crop, will not have a crop, one single berry from them this year. So, and for many years, pretty much the floricane bearing varieties were it. There really weren't any ever-bearing varieties. Ever-bearing varieties can have the potential to produce two crops: a late spring, early summer crop, and the fall crop. So Niwot, and that's quite a mouthful. Niwot was released, I would say, probably about 12 to 15 years ago. 12 to 15 years ago. And so are they required to chop the? Okay, here we go. May need a little bit more detail. Okay, so if you were if you are kind of concerned about winter injuries and to black raspberries, so Niwot could be a very good variety. So you can, if all the floricanes are killed, then you still have primocanes for a fall crop. That's the good news. The bad news is, who knows how long your fall will last? And typically, a fall crop will start sometime around early September to frost, and so to frost, and some in southern Ohio, Piketon, or I live in Columbus, and so we're probably talking about maybe late October. So you just never know. In southern Ohio, maybe around October 15th. But whenever the frost comes, and that would be the end of your fall crop. So Niwot, so always when people name varieties, I always wonder why they name such an interesting name. So Niwot, I guess, happens to be the name of an Indian chief. So that's where that name came from. Anyways, so breeder, that was his variety, and he can name whatever he wanted to, and he named it Niwot. So the fruits actually are very, very tasty, very glossy, and medium to large size, and I like it a lot. And we have several growers in Ohio that were actually part of the breeding program, and then they were growing them. Okay, so red raspberries, and let's talk about them a little bit. And red raspberries, and it's kind of interesting. Ohio has quite a regional preference. Some areas, and everybody loves black raspberries, and other areas, everybody loves reds. And so it's kind of I guess it's all goes back to tradition, tradition and local preference. So for folks who are thinking about planting them, and so the summer red Prelude has been a pretty good variety for folks for a long time. So it's quite productive, and it's an early season variety, early season summer red. So whenever we talk about summer red, you just know there are floricane bearing varieties. So do not cut them at to the ground level in March, because that will eliminate all the flowers and fruit production. And then you have Nova. Nova, just by its name, it comes from Nova Scotia. Fruit size medium to large, and it's a very good variety, and our commercial growers like them. and homeowners and gardeners like them too. So these are the summer reds, and typically they ripen in July sometime, depending on where you are, give or take a week to 10 days. Purple raspberries, and they're kind of like hybrids of red and black raspberries. So one variety that I like quite a bit is a Royalty. I think another one is Brandywine. Brandywine is quite good too. For the sake of time, I only listed one. So Royalty is quite productive, and fruits are quite large and quite sweet. And so very, very good variety. So purple, purple, the poster child for purple raspberries and would be a Royalty. Yellow raspberries, and there are quite a few too. And is my favorite yellow raspberry variety. So very, very good. Very good. And so it's a Prima-King bearing variety, and fruit is quite large. And some folks, well, a lot of people like it, and well, there are also people who do not really care for yellow ones, and I don't know whether it's because they look strange or what, but I like yellow raspberries quite a bit. And yellow raspberries are just kind of a mutation of red raspberries, and so in the case of Anne, it ripens at the same time as Heritage. So pretty much just kind of behaves like Heritage and without the red, deep red color. So you can manage yellow raspberries and like everbearing red raspberries. Well, let's kind of talk a little bit about pruning. So if you were to grow summer bearing red varieties, and well, this diagram kind of tells you. So if you look at the total fruiting cane, that would be your flora cane. So if you were to chop off top 1/4, you are going to eliminate about 15% of your fruit load. And then if you whack off another 1/4, and then you are going to hurt yourself. That's going to eliminate about 40% of your crop. So probably the natural question is, why do you want to cut off any cane? Because you're sacrificing fruits. Well, the reason for that is, first of all, if the canes are too tall, and then they might break with any kind of wind. So instead of losing a little bit, then you are losing the whole thing. So that's one reason. Another reason is, well, you don't really want to get on a ladder to pick raspberries. So you kind of want to keep all the fruits at a comfortable picking height. And so that's why you would remove part of it, so it's easier for you to pick them. And commercial growers will make it easier for all the pick your own people to pick fruits. So that would be the second reason. The third reason is by eliminating some of the fruiting potential, and your remaining fruits will be much, much larger and much sweeter. So that's kind of how that goes. So summer reds like Nova, Lauren. So that's how you prune these guys. You also could prune some of the wheat canes, and the wheat canes, because there are competitors amongst themselves. So by eliminating some competition, so the remaining shoots will grow much, much stronger. So typically, you would cut back the canes to about 4.5 to 5 feet tall. unless you're like 6'7", 6'9", maybe you can you can keep the canes much taller than average. And then another thing to do is after the flora canes produce fruits in summer bearing varieties, so you could just remove all those canes that produce fruits. And there are, in terms of removal of the canes that produce fruits, there are two ways to deal with that, or two different timings for it. Some growers will just cut them off right away after they produce fruits, and so that would be kind of late July-ish and early August. So the idea is, well, I do not want these canes to stick around, and they may harbor diseases, insects, and they might drain nutrients, and that's one way to think about it. Another time to do this is you can actually do that in February and March. So because by then, and these canes get really brittle, and so some growers actually would just go in there, and then they use very thick gloves, and they just break them and pull them out. So that would work too. If you were to remove them then, remove them in February and March, and it could be beneficial because all of the nutrients from the canes can still go back to the roots to help the plants kind of grow better. So this is what the planting looks like before and after. So when you look at this, some of these grayish canes, and they are the ones that produce fruits during the previous season. So the grower will just come in to break them off, and by hand, gloved hands, to get rid of them. And then they also come in and to top them at about 4 to 5 feet tall. So you can take off some fruits and make everything much more manageable. And then you can space them out a little bit. And if you have too many canes, you could remove some. And I guess a good rule of thumb is to spray to space them out and every maybe 6 to 8 inches or so. And I just kind of use my fist as a guide. And so it's the pictures were this. The farm where these pictures were taken, and they have very well drained soil. And the pictures were taken at Champaign Berry Farm in Champaign County, Urbana, Ohio. So if you have very well drained soil, life is really good. Life is really good with the raspberries. And if you don't have very good well drained soil, raspberry production could be pretty tough. So if we have time, and I can talk about how to get around it by growing them in containers. And if you were to grow everbearing varieties, and so the poster child for everbearing or double cropping type is Heritage. And so the improved variety is Caroline, and then there are a whole bunch of them like Polana, Josephine, and quite a few everbearing varieties. So Heritage happens to be the one that everybody loves, and for a long time, I believe it was released back in the 1960s, maybe 64, 65, somewhere in that vicinity. So it's been around, and a lot of fruit growers still grow Heritage. So with Heritage and type, and so what you could do now, and so this is still February, and I always tell people, well, it depends on how big of a planting that you have. If you have a small planting, you can wait until probably late March, and before all the little primocanes come out, you can cut them off then. But if you have 27 acres or 30 acres, like Mr. Mike Polans does, and then you'd better get busy and start pruning them now. Actually, they have been pruning. So what you do is one way to prune it is to just cut everything to the ground, and that's the easy way. But that may not be the best way, because if you were to cut them off at the ground level now, and so you will get a fall crop, and so that's about fall crop probably makes up for about 60% of your total crop, and so you are sacrificing quite a bit. So, but you can make them produce 2 crops, and so what you do, what you could do now or March, and you could just come in and narrow your rows to about 18 to 24 inches, 18 to 24 inches, and also remove canes, and again use your fist, and every 6 to 8 inches you leave a nice cane. And so that would be what you would do with elderberry varieties. So Heritage and Caroline, and so that's kind of what you do. You also remove the canes that produce fruits. But do keep in mind, though, what ever-bearing varieties, so the primocanes, when they produce fruits the fall before. So right now, when you look at the canes that produce the fruits from last year or last September, so the fruits will be on the tip, and then you could just remove that first maybe 4 or 5 inches or so, all the buds below, and those are flower buds. There are a bunch of flower buds right below where the fruits were produced in 2022. So make sure you save those, because those canes, the buds from those canes, will give you a nice late season, early summer crop. And so we kind of covered red and wild red raspberries. So if you have black and purple raspberries, and typically what you do is you will do a little bit of heading back cut during the summer months, and so you would head them at 28 to 30 inches above the soil line, and for purple it's 32 inches. So people, so gardeners or growers, and you can use kind of thick gloves, and because when the shoots are young, you could just snap them off quite easily, and maybe a couple inches or so, just snap them off. And when you do that during the summer month, then they will produce lots of laterals, and then right now you would prune these laterals and back to I would say it's about a foot or so, and so that by doing so you can keep them nice and compact, and then the fruits will be much larger and will be much sweeter. Since we have a bunch of master gardeners, and some of them may get on the Master Gardener helpline or answer questions at the community events. So you will see some samples, and well, just about everybody knows about Japanese beetles, and they can hurt. Well, the brambles like raspberries and blackberries are the favorite hosts, and they can come like kind of probably like the Albert Hitchcock movies, just lots of them. And so another one, so that these would be Japanese beetles, and then you have raspberry cane borer, and and then you also have redneck cane borer. So with raspberry cane borer, what it does is you see the tip will just kind of wilt, and just so the insects are in the cane. So you could gardeners can spray insecticides to control it, but you can also cut it off to remove the insect. And the redneck cane borer will just cause a big swelling in the middle. Okay, so that was kind of a quick lowdown on raspberries. Okay, this is good to know. Caroline is excellent variety, large and large berries, conical. I assume it's conical berries, and so it's supposed to be an improved version of a heritage, and a little bit earlier than heritage. Very good variety. And so the one question is, does extension have a document regarding pruning of raspberries? Yes, and so if you just Google Ohio line, OHIOLINE, and raspberries for the home fruit planting, or just raspberry, maybe my name, and that will probably get you to the fact sheet. And the Midwest Home Fruit Production Guide and also has that information. Okay. Okay, so on black raspberries, so the question is, do you trim the laterals? And yes, on black raspberries you do. For those folks who have grown black raspberries, some of these laterals can be really, really long, so they can go on quite a bit, and then the ends will actually go into the ground. And then root, and that's how you, if you wanted to, propagate plants, and that'd be called layering. And so, but right now, if the laterals are very, very long, and you could just trim them back to 1 foot, so all of your flowers are going to be on that 1 foot long lateral or laterals. So you will eliminate quite a bit of fruit, but your remaining fruits will be nice and large. Well, will be much sweeter, much sweeter, and very tastes much better. Okay, let's talk about time flies, goes by really fast. So let's talk about blueberries a little bit. You guys are actually luckier than we are. So the northeast Ohio seems like more areas will have kind of a loamy soil, and then maybe with a little bit more organic matter content. But if you do not, and then we can kind of commiserate. So with blueberries, and so just a few things key to successful blueberry growing. So I always tell people probably the ideal soil pH for blueberries is 4.5, even though the literature will tell you it's 4.5 to about 5.2. If you can get the soil pH to 4.5, and they are going to be really, really happy. So you can acidify soil with elemental sulfur. So that's a very good way. And what some people will ask us, and like, how long does it take for the soil pH to go down? Typically, it's about 6 to 8 months. 6 to 8 months. And so if your soil is about say 5.6 or so, and lower than 6, I would think about planting blueberries in that area. But if it's like 7 and above, and I probably would not mess with it. I would rather grow them in containers to avoid a lot of frustration. And so you also need to increase the organic matter content to about 4 to 7%. And so I think 7% is better than 4. And because the blueberry roots and they really love that loose soil and lots of organic matter. And we also mulch them with wood chips. And so we're talking about 3 inches of mulch. And a lot of times blueberry roots just grow right in the transition zone, right below the mulched layer, and in that transition zone. So the lots of organic matter content is very, very important, and lots of mulch, wood chips. If you wood chips should be well aged, and then you also need to add plenty of nitrogen to compensate for the nitrogen usage by wood chips. So nitrogen fertilization is very, very important. So for home gardeners, you may or may not know there's a difference between nitrate form and ammonium form. Nitrate, the blueberries do not like nitrate form, and so it's better to apply ammonium sulfate or urea as a nitrogen source. And so for home gardeners, and that might be enough. So another thing I would check is my water. If you use municipal water or for irrigation, and if you know you have hard water, and you can see that see it on as the calcium deposits on your faucets, or if your laundry doesn't get clean all the time, so that means you have high alkalinity. So if that were to happen, growers will use the sulfuric acid to acidify their soil, acidify their water. But gardeners, it's probably better to just collect rainwater, and so that would be more ideal, and it's less work and less dangerous. And one thing to keep in mind is keep your roots moist, not wet. Keep them at all time. Keep them moist at all times. Very important if you look at even read our fact sheets on blueberry production or blueberry growing, we mentioned a few common varieties or traditional varieties like Duke and Blue Crop, Blue Ray, Elliott, and Jersey. You kind of wonder, how come my blueberry varieties do not thrive? Well, it's because they have a very strict requirement for acidic soil and also high organic matter content. So if you were to select a little bit newer variety, my recommendation or recommended varieties are Sweetheart, Legacy, and the Nelson. And while the Sweetheart and Legacy are the hybrids of northern and the southern high bush, and so there are hybrids, and they were able to. Initially, I was really worried about their cold hardiness. It turns out both Sweetheart and Legacy survived our polar vortexes in 14 and 15, so they are very cold hardy. And Nelson is just a northern high bush, and it's very, very bushy and very vigorous. And so some people will ask me, like, what do we do about birds? I would say netting. And so some growers will put a little balloon with a big eyeball on it. I'm not sure it works. In this case, you are not seeing birds flying around, and I'm not sure whether it's because of the big balloon or or the birds were kind of shot. We always say it's lead poisoning at high speed, so pretty nasty. But anyway, so netting. And so if you go like, okay, well, I really don't have ideal soil for for blueberries, and what about container production? And so these are two pictures, and to make all of us feel bad. And I'm not sure you could grow blueberries like this in Ohio, because our climate is just not that great. But if you were to move to more like a Mediterranean type of weather climate, for example, like Willamette Valley in Oregon, and they have that, so their blueberries can look like this. But for container production, and for homeowners, you can do that, and so you could get well, the container size could be most gardeners, well, the commercial growers, they use 10-gallon containers. Even 7-gallon containers are okay. But for home gardeners, I would say the larger the container size, the better you will be, because you have larger volume. It doesn't dry out as much. So what you could do is you could use 70. I would say probably about 50-50, 50% pine bark and then 50% peat moss. And some growers have used 30-gallon containers to grow them, and that would be a little bit on the bigger side. And so to me, the 10-gallon containers would be the minimum size. So this is what our plot looks like. We used the 10-gallon containers. So when you buy 10 gallons, and there are two different versions. You have the tall ones, and you have the more squatty ones, kind of flat 10 gallons. So 10-gallon, this is what our pine bark look like, and so looks like. And so aged pine bark from the loblolly pine, paper industry, and so make sure you have good water. Yeah, make sure you have good water. Ours was not. This is what they look like before we acidify the soil, acidify the water by providing or by adding sulfuric acid to our irrigation water. So this is what they look like after 2 years and 2.5 years or so. And so for home gardeners, and you may or may not be able to get this, but if you can, that would be fantastic. But do keep in mind that blueberries love ammonium. That would be ammonium sulfate or urea. So blueberries are not good at utilizing nitrate fertilizer. And this is what we did, and we injected sulfuric acid through an injector. So container blueberry production, I have a little bit time left, and so I will talk about maybe blackberries, and I'll leave some time for questions. Well, not necessarily sometime. It's already 6:52. And so blackberries, and just keep in mind that the blackberries are not very cold hardy in Ohio. And so if you were to grow blackberries, I would not grow them in a wide open area. I would plant them against a wall of some kind, or a windbreaker of some kind, so you have quite a bit protection. So the variety, number one variety is the Chester thornless. Is it because it's the best tasting variety? Probably not, but it's the most cold hardy variety. But in some years, even Chester thornless gets damaged quite a bit. So So that would be my number one variety, and just think about that. And so if you feel optimistic about weather, and then maybe Triple Crown could be added, but keep in mind you need some type of protection or protected site. Otherwise, they will look like this. And if somebody has purchased quite a few Bitcoins during the last 2 or 3 years and made a lot of money, this is something that you can spend your little profit on. It's called rotatable cross-arm trellis, and it's a neat thing for commercial growers. But they do sell them to home gardeners. So you could just buy a little segment, and you can grow blackberries, and then put the laterals on the rotatable cross-arm trellis. You can actually cover them with row covers. So they sell these kits to home gardeners, and there is also a much taller version for hops growers. Really neat stuff. And so if you were to have that kind of, if you were to have a protected site or rotatable cross-arm trellis, you can grow things like Washita and Natchez. And then the greatest variety it's called Ponca. So the best tasting, supposedly the best tasting, most flavorful, sweetest blackberries there is. Yeah, it looks like I will not be able to. Yeah, will not be able to get to Aronia very much, and I'm just gonna stop here and look at the questions. Okay, maybe we'll kind of go from the last to the. Okay, so can you mention the best grape varieties? Okay, quite a few really good questions. So the grape varieties, and for table grapes, there are several. The one I did my research on was Reliance seedless. It was a red seedless variety, but with it, you have to do a lot of cluster thinning to keep the fruits sweet. So they're all kind of planted names. So Mars seedless, and it's probably my favorite. And then Jupiter, Saturn, kind of a close seconds. Reliance would be a pretty good one. Third. Let's see.
Hey Gary, we can go a little bit longer. We can go till 7:15 or so, and then you can do questions after that. We have plenty of time.
Okay. Let's see. 7:15. Okay, let me just kind of go on a little bit. 7:15-ish. Okay, and so I have a few slides on Aronia and a few slides on elderberries, and so I'll kind of go through Aronia pretty quickly. Well, the Aronia, it's Aronia melanocarpa, and so they're called Aronia berries, and the reason for that is because nobody likes chokeberries. And so the common name for Aronia melanocarpa is black chokeberry. And so for a long time, I always thought that black chokeberries would choke birds, and they do not eat them at all. So I found out the hard way when my research project. And so when Aronia berries are unripe, birds do not like them. But when they reach full maturity, birds love them. So we were supposed to take some yield data, and my technician informed me that all the fruits are gone. So as you can tell, that was a pretty sad day in my professional life. So aronia well, the aronia, they have a lot of nice antioxidants, and they have many health benefits and this and that. So that's the good news. The bad news is the fresh fruits taste kind of astringent. I'm not sure I like it myself, but if you want to use them, you may need to add a lot of sugar and turn them into other products, and otherwise they do not taste that great by themselves. So we it definitely takes what you do is you can make jam, and actually aronia juice I heard is quite tasty. So you can try that, or you can make baked goods. One of the staff members and made some baked goods out of them, and they were quite tasty. So, and that's how you get the health benefits of aronia melanocarpa. With aronia, there aren't really that many varieties out there, and there are even the ones that are available for purchase. Viking, Nero, and Galactica, and they're really not that far removed from the wild types. They might be somewhat larger, but not necessarily that much improvement. So if you were to grow aronia, and probably treat them more like an ornamental plant with some fruits, and make a few baked goods or preserves out of them, and to enjoy their health benefits. And I certainly like the flowers quite a bit, and so aronia is actually related to apples and pears. It's a palm fruit. It's a palm fruit. Just kind of go back a little bit. So whenever you harvest palm fruits, kind of like apples and pears, so keep in mind you really don't remove the fruits, and you remove the fruits with the fruit stems attached. Otherwise, then they will decompose pretty quickly. So unless you harvest them and then freeze them right away, and I would harvest the fruits with the fruit stems attached, so you can keep them a little bit longer. So a lot of neat flowers, and they have some nice nice fall color. So this is a planting of aronia in Iowa, and from distance they look like blueberry bushes. Just really neat looking things, and so for commercial guys, and commercial guys, they actually purchase mechanical harvesters, and for some reason, folks in Iowa, they went to town with aronia berries, and they planted, I believe, 1,000 some acres for the whole state. So aronia fruits, and if you grow them, one thing, and most things don't really bother them. Well, the birds will go after the fruits, and you may get spotted wing Drosophila, but there's one insect that will feed on the underside of the leaves, and then will eat the tissue, and then your leaves will look kind of grayish, and almost like the flea beetles kind of went after them. my brain is drawing a blank. I think it's a lace bug, and anyways, so when you see that, when you see the leaves kind of turn kind of grayish and losing pigment, and that's a sign of insect damage, and typically an insecticide like a pyrethrin will do a good job controlling insects. Otherwise all the chlorophylls will be gone, and then before too long all the leaves will fall off. Okay, since we have a little bit of time, and I will I think somebody mentioned somebody had a question about elderberries. We get very excited about when I say we, it's myself and my technician Ryan Slaughter, and we get very excited about elderberries. And so there are several types of elderberries, and you have American elderberry, and that would be Sambucus canadensis, and then you have European or black elderberry, Sambucus nigra. So those two are the predominant or the main types, and we myself and Ryan Slaughter, and we kind of like the American elderberries much better, and not because their fruits are that different. It's because American elderberries are easy to prune. You could just treat them like ever-bearing red raspberries. Right now, you can cut them just slightly above the ground and just cut all the canes, and do that to American elderberries, and they will produce a beautiful, just produce one crop. That would be kind of a more like a late summer crop. And so pruning is very easy. Just cut everything to the ground level with American elderberries. Or if you are an entrepreneur type, and you can sell these cuttings, and I believe quite a few nurseries sell them at $3 to $5 per cutting. They're kind of like like this, and with 2 buds on them, $3 to $5 and per cutting. And there are people who will purchase them, and you could just stick these cuttings into the ground. If you have good soil, into the ground. Well, you could take cuttings now and stick them into like a raised bed with good soil, and then just let them root. The rate of success just by doing that is pretty high. I would say their elderberries are kind of like grapevines. They're very easy to propagate. So we got a grant to work on different types of elderberries, and we showcased our results to growers and gardeners, and so elderberries are native to North America, and they are a medium to large shrub, and sometimes to a small tree. So if you ever when you drive on highways, typically in July-ish, and you see these large white flowers and in the ditches along highways, very likely these are elderberry bushes. So varieties, and there are quite a few. You have New York varieties, Adams and Adams 1, Adams 2, and some people will say, well, there is not that much difference between them, but if you feel like there is a difference, then there is. If you say there is no difference, there isn't, because there is a pretty big confusion in the trade. Like, okay, are they really that much different? So, and Adams 1, Adams 2, and York. and then a few Canadian varieties, Nova, and Scotia, Kent, and Johns. And so one of our commercial growers in Southern Ohio grows Adams, and boy, very large flower heads. I guess it's either pronounced as cymes or seams, and so they are huge flower heads. So this is what the fruits look like, just big, big seams or cymes. And then the fruits are, almost black, very. Since they look black, they have lots of antioxidants, and so it's CYMES, and I call them seams, but other people pronounce it as cymes. But anyway, so if you were to select varieties for the Midwest, and I would my number one variety would be Bob Gordon, selected out of Missouri. So it's just, I guess it was named Bob Gordon who found this variety. And then the number two, actually they're all kind of co-champions. Both of them are good. Wildwood, it's another variety that came out of Missouri. Very large fruits and very high quality. So really neat. And so this is in terms of propagation, this is how this is Patrick Byers, and this is how he propagates them in nursery. These large sticks and with two buds, and you just stick the bottom end into the soil, and then they will root very easily. The rate of success is probably around 95% to 100%. So very high rate of success. Or you can just propagate them in containers and using potting mix. And so these are 4-inch pots, and my technician did this in the greenhouse, and I would say rate of success again was about 100%. So if you don't miss watering them, and they should all take. So gardeners, and you can purchase bare rooted plants or container plants, and typically the spacing is about 3 to 4 feet between plants. And their soil requirements are not really that strict, and because think about them being found in ditches, and that would be one of the worst areas for any plants. But if you were to grow them in the in your garden, I would still plant them on raised beds, so they will grow better. So nice. So they're kind of tall shrubs, and so this is so pruning wise, and you could just cut everything to the ground level, and just do that. And elderberries and kind of get a few insects, and they can get Japanese beetles pretty badly. Japanese beetles will attack the leaves, and they will also attack the flowers. So that's kind of rough, and so you definitely wanted to control Japanese beetles, so the plants will have a chance to produce fruits. And then it's kind of unfortunate, and this invasive pest and spotted wing Drosophila, SWD, also likes elderberries. And so if you leave the fruits on for too long, and then the fruits will kind of start fermenting. So an insecticide application will do a good job. And so this is what the flower heads look like. And so one thing I was told is you can actually shave off the florets and these little white flowers, you can put them in pancake mix and then make pancakes with the fresh flowers. And so that's kind of neat. And so a lot of people like elderberries, elderberry syrup, and as kind of a homeopathic kind of medicine. And well, American Indians have used elderberries for a long time for various illnesses. So typical harvest and somewhere between July to August, depending on the varieties. And so this is what they look like. And some people will make elderberry wine. Elderberry wine tastes somewhat like a dry red, but it also has a distinctive flavor that some people may or may not like. So, but if you just drink it for your health and drink for the antioxidants, maybe that will work. And it definitely does not taste as good as a Merlot or Cabernet Sauvignon, but it still has a lot of pigments and lots of antioxidants. So I'm gonna stop here. It's about 7:15, and let's go over some of the questions. Oh, okay. Can dry flowers? Yeah, not. I guess medical questions. We try not to. I don't know if it's really good for cough. Try not to answer any medical questions. Okay, pruning blueberries. Pruning blueberry bushes. So it's blueberries, and so what I would do is our growers will always say you prune them by color, and so it's all about keeping the best quality canes, and the best quality canes are red. So they are kind of salmon colored and red. So with blueberry bushes, and when the canes reach about 4 or 5 years old, they're kind of grayish with a kind of exfoliating bark, and I would remove those. So the 4 or 5 year old canes, I would remove them. So you get rid of those in the middle, and anything that's kind of arching, I would remove them. So you keep all the vertical ones. So vertical red shoots. So you keep those. You can actually remove about 50% of the canes, and then the blueberry bushes will still be fine, and the fruits will be nice and large and sweet. Because when you think about it, if you have too many flower buds, and which blueberry bushes can produce a lot of, and then the fruits will be small and will be sour. So you can remove the older canes and get rid of those, and keep all the vertical new shoots from last year. All of the flower buds are on the terminal, maybe terminal 6 to 8 inches. And they're big fat buds, and so the pencil size shoots are the best ones, and you keep them. Pencil size and vertical ones are the best. Okay, let me stop sharing so I can see the. So, okay, somebody, so I'll have elderberry cuttings, and there you go. You will have some prune blueberries and dry flowers. Okay, can you recommend the variety where the berries ripen uniformly over a long period of time? So the question is a variety. What kind of plant are we talking about?
It was elderberry.
Oh, okay, elderberry. So that would be wildwood and Bob Gordon. If you prune everything off, and they all ripen at about the same time. For us, it's early to mid-August or so in Piketon. So just cut. And so American elderberries, and then you prune them prune them all off, and then they will not produce two different crops. Okay, and so ask the expert, and by extension, so that'd be a good place to ask questions. A variety, let's see. I'm growing green gage and trees. Oh, okay, black knot fungus. And so black knot disease, and we have done all the things. Boy, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because spraying fungicides, and it's hard to get the right fungicides, and they're very expensive, and then spraying them, and if you prune all the black knots off, and there's hardly anything left. So it's pretty tough. So I would say lots of spraying if you're willing to do it, and then prune all the knots off, and if there's anything left, that's a pretty tough one. Probably switching plum trees, and boy, they just get it a lot. Okay, what time do you prune elderberry bushes? And so now, if you just have one bush, I would do that in March. Okay, aronia is a beautiful plant. Certainly agree. Love, love the flowers, and also the beautiful foliage. And if it doesn't get attacked by this little lacebug insect. Okay, so figs, and we love, when I see my technician and I, we love the hardy figs, and we wrote a fact sheet on growing hardy figs in Ohio, or growing figs in Ohio. So brown turkey and the hardy Chicago are the varieties that do not require this little wasp for pollination. And so for your part of state, man, your growing fruiting season could be kind of short. For us, without protection, it's about 10 days. 10 days, I would say maybe September 10th to about September 20th. So that's without protection. And inside the high tunnel, maybe it's another 10 days or so. So I would definitely grow my figs in a protected area, maybe in a corner where cold wind doesn't get them. Maybe benefit from the heat reflection from a brick wall or something. So the question was, do you train them on the Espalier? And boy, we tried all kinds of things. And it seems like no matter what we did, cold winter temperatures would just kill all the canes. So we just cut them to the ground level and let the new shoots come up. And I heard, I can't remember who that was, a lady, maybe a master gardener from Cleveland area. So what they do is, they use the Japanese method. So they would let the canes come up, and then train them to grow horizontally. I don't know whether it's one cane or two. So if it's one cane, you just let them go one way, and then you let the lateral shoots come up. And so the gardener actually bury the lateral, with a foot of soil to overwinter. And so that's one way to grow them. Another way is to this is from a gardener in Columbus. She actually built a little pyramid using a wooden pyramid shaped box, kind of enclosing the whole tree, and that was enough to insulate them quite a bit. But anyway, okay, there is a Facebook group called Queen City Figs. Just love figs. And so the third variety is Olympian. So it's kind of mediocre. We were not that impressed. But Hardy Chicago and the brown turkey. And then brown turkey, apparently there are two versions of the brown turkey on the market, and there's a California version, there's a cold hardy version. So if you get the non-cold hardy version, and then that could be bad news. Let's see, maybe I'll answer one more question and then we'll stop. Okay, advice on pruning gooseberries. Let's see, gooseberries and I would say with gooseberry, we did have gooseberries at South Centers in Piketon, and we had them for about 4 or 5 years. We really didn't do much pruning at all, and seems like they came out pretty good. I would say just a little bit thinning to remove the older shoots, and maybe just thin out every other one, so you wouldn't have to have that many fruits, and that's about it. Boy, they have a lot of thorns. The varieties that we have, they had a lot of thorns, and they were quite tasty. John, I'm gonna stop here, so we don't want to abuse people.
Thank you.
Seems
Thank
like
you so much, Gary.
some people are dropping off, and that's about all we can all they can tolerate now.
A lot of wonderful information. Anthony, this has been recorded, right? So how
Yes,
do
this
we get recordings?
Yeah, so this is going to be recorded, and we were actually going to post it on our YouTube page within the next probably early next week. By the time it gets all finished up, downloading and stuff, and then a link will be sent out through the Eventbrite where you registered, and there'll be a link to our YouTube, and the recording will be on there, the chat will be on there, and then we'll also send out some information about our upcoming workshops for the invasive species.
Very good. Thank you, Anthony.
Absolutely.
Gary,
Thank you.
thank you so much. Everybody with cameras, wave goodbye. So Gary.
Well, thank you very much. I really
Thank you so
appreciate your patience and attendance.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
All right, bye now. Good luck to
Bye-bye.
you all.
Bye. Thank you.